What is up, people? My name is Stahv. You're in my living room. Today, I have Anthony Stone in the building. Welcome, Anthony.
How's it going, man?
It's going great.
Cool.
It's going great. Anthony, I've been following his work for, I want to say like 2 or 3 years at this point. But I've been able just to see his vision of a tailor shop front kind of come to life in the city of De Pere. Can you give us a little background of what it is that you do?
Yeah. So I make clothes. I guess right now I kind of call it like a tailor shop. I do alterations, repairs, custom clothing, and also these like remake kind of taking vintage garments and kind of mashing them together.
His work is absolutely insane. If anybody, where can people find you on Instagram?
So it's just A Stone Tailor
Yeah.
on Instagram. I think it's like A.Stone_Tailor. And then also I have like a TikTok too that I post.
Nice. Okay, you're on TikTok.
Yeah, those ones are more like the process,
Got
whereas
it.
like Instagram's just like a photo of the finished piece,
Yeah.
But,
So I want to hit on your background just because I feel like we need to give some context to your work. When, and how did you get into this line of work?
Yeah, so I mean, I guess always been into clothes, and I'm sure like that's something relatable to everybody. Like most people kind of get into clothes. For me, it was like skateboarding.
Yeah.
Right. Super into style, stuff like that. And then when I was 18, 19, trying to figure out what I wanted to do with my life, I moved to Tokyo and got really involved in there it's just clothes is everywhere, right? It's just in super crazy design.
Oh yeah, they go all out.
Yeah, for sure. So a buddy of mine, Steve, introduced me to comdegarson, the Japanese brand, and that basically just blew my mind. I was like,
absolutely.
whoa. I wanted to go to school to be like a tailor, but because of I don't know, I was living in Tokyo. I was thinking about going to England to go to school to become a tailor, but my mom was like, check out this fashion school in Tokyo. It's a trade school, and then
That's it. I mean, it's a really cool story. When you made that jump to Tokyo, were you at all nervous about, going somewhere completely new to you and trying to figure out, because did you go with the intention of choosing tailoring or was that kind of afterthought?
Yeah, it was like kind of like a couple different thoughts in mind, right? So my grandma and grandpa live in Tokyo, and I had been there as a child, just to hang out.
Got it.
So it wasn't like scary because I kind of had like familiarity.
Sure,
I didn't
sure.
speak the language or anything, but it was familiar.
Got it.
But yeah, so I went out there with just the intention to stay there for like 2 months,
That's wild. And
yeah.
you ended up staying for how long?
6 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it was like, I was like, 2 months, ended up like going to language school for Japanese, ended getting up a job teaching English. And then like, that's where I met a bunch of friends, and those are like the friends that kind of turned me on into like Japanese fashion.
Sure.
So it wasn't like, I knew that I wanted to go to Japan because there was like clothes and there wasn't not here, like I born and raised in Ashwaubenon.
Okay.
So
I was going to ask. Yeah.
So it was like, there's nothing in fashion happening.
Oh,
around here,
absolutely
right?
not.
Especially, this is, 10 years ago or more now.
Sure,
maybe.
sure.
So, I wanted to go somewhere that had fashion.
Oh, it's completely, it's completely different than it is here. I'm sure. I've never been. I would love to go to Tokyo at some point in my life just to see the city. But yeah, I'm sure the fashion is just on a whole different level.
Yeah, it's just a totally different thing, and like, fashion everyone's got their own thing going on, but yeah, it was definitely like mind blowing for 19-year-old me. Was like,
I'm sure.
So.
For the 6 years that you were there, what was your day to day like?
In the beginning, so I was just telling my brother about this too. It was like, so I didn't speak any Japanese. I remember I didn't really have much going on. I was taking like language courses at a couple different universities. But I remember trying to like wanting to explore Japan, and my grandpa just like took me to the train station and just pointed. And then he
Wow.
was just like go, like go. And
Wow.
then so like I kind of had to figure it out, but
He didn't come with you at all. He
no,
just
it's
sent
like
you.
he's like
Interesting.
he was like an old dude at that time, like probably like in his 80s already, you know. So
Okay.
he just kind of like walked me to the station. He's like,
Go figure it out.
yeah,
Go figure it
yeah.
out. That's so raw.
But I mean, so yeah, like at that time it was just kind of like, I mean, every day I'd be like checking out the different shops, trying to absorb as much about clothes as I could. Especially when I got into school, you know, that was like everything was just all about clothes. It was like, you know, like an obsession and a totally different degree, you know. So it was just like every day, just like.
Oh, you definitely have kind of your own style and your own, I hate the word vibe, but you have your own vibe. What kind of influenced those, or was it just a combination of where you were and the things that you like? But were there any like major influences there?
Yeah, so I mean, I guess environment is everything, right? So when I first moved out there, I was reading a lot of GQ, you know, because like that, again, like around here, there's nothing, right?
Sure.
So it's just like you know, you're like, oh, I kind of like clothes. I want to read GQ, right? And so it was like I was reading GQ, and like whatever kind of men's fashion blogs of the time, right? And then my buddy, I was telling you about my buddy Steve was like, he's like, oh, he's really into you know, so he was like telling me all about it, and like eventually I made my way to a store. And then that, like, again, like I said,
Sparked,
it just blew my mind. I was like, I didn't realize clothes could be this, you know. And then you start like looking into the past fashion shows, and you're like, man, that's crazy. And then you find like Undercover, Yoji, you know, and all these kind of like Japanese brands that, for me, pretty much like instantly changed my direction of like what I liked in terms of clothes.
Very cool. I mean, fashion is pretty unique in that its history is pretty like well documented,
For sure.
just through like photos, and you know, once video became a thing, you can go back and watch old fashion shows from whenever, and there's a lot of archives, I'm sure, that contain just insane clothes.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I mean, you can go back until like, I mean, I think like modern fashion history, as we call it, probably started in like the like 40. Well, I guess like, you know, you have like Coco Chanel in like the 20s, you know, and then, you know, but like you can go back and look at like Balenciaga shows on YouTube from like the 60s.
Yeah,
you know, it's kind of crazy that it's all there, but
and you see trends come and go,
For
and
sure.
all
For
of
sure.
all of that good stuff. What brought you back here?
So I finished school. I got a job working, making patterns for like a pattern company in Japan. And I was working like gnarly hours, you know, like 80 plus hours a week.
Wow.
It was gnarly.
Insane.
Like, you know, so I was like, man, this sucks, you know,
Yeah,
especially because you're like, I don't know, like you think it's your dream, and then you're like, man, this really blows. So I was talking to my dad, and he was like, well, why don't you just come home? And I said, okay. Like, you know.
And you hopped on the plane the next day.
Basically, so I ended up going to Ireland and studied some more tailoring for a little bit.
Okay.
And then I went back to Tokyo. I interviewed at like a few different places.
Sure.
And then I was like, not really feeling it. So I was like, all right, I'll go home. And then from there, I guess probably we would have met around that time.
Yeah.
So I came back. I started working at a tailor shop here in town called Master Tailor. So I moved back when I was like 25, 26. And then worked at that tailor shop. Micah, who owns the tattoo shop,
Northern Tide
Tattoo, he was getting his pants altered at that shop, and I knew him from back in the day. We used to play in bands together, or like
Okay.
Similar scene.
So you have
know?
a musical background as well.
Back in high school, like music was everything.
Oh, so, I didn't know that. That's sweet.
I played the drums. Michael played the bass,
No way.
We'd always play like shows in the same place, you know.
Oh, that's so
I knew him
sick.
from back in the day, and then I was like, yo, is that Micah? And then, you know,
Yeah.
and then, so yeah, then I was talking to Micah and Emily. He's like, you got to meet my friend Emily. She's really into clothes.
Locals only.
Locals only. So they're just the coolest bunch, you know. Like,
Oh, it's such a cool little group you have right downtown De Pere. I mean, the whole shop fronts being basically connected. I mean, you have Emily and locals only kind of in the bottom there, and then Micah and Northern Tide on the side, and then you're above, correct?
Yep.
Yeah.
It's great. It's like such a good vibe of just like creative people trying to do things, you know?
Oh, that's one thing I love about this podcast is when you surround yourself with really creative people. I mean, it's a huge motivating thing.
For sure.
And you kind of can pick up on energy and it's really a beautiful thing.
For sure. It's awesome. So, yeah. So, you know, Micah, Emily, you know, they were trying to get me, you know, they were kind of like, because I had always wanted to do my own thing, right? Like my own brand, my own shop or something, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like you should do it here. You should do it here, you know? Emily had me do a couple workshops, where we
yes,
went, right?
that was where I first met him. I attended one of his like mending classes or workshops.
Yeah.
And I brought an old Adidas windbreaker that I had burnt a hole through because I had sat on a candle.
It was like a nylon
Yeah, I still have it.
Yeah.
It was in my closet.
Sick.
And yeah, it was I had mended a few things before that, but I learned a ton while I was there.
After that, you did like another thing.
Yes, I have a Adidas hoodie.
It was a hoodie, right?
Yes.
I remember seeing a picture of that. That thing is gnarly.
I wear it all the time. It's still in my closet. It's one of my
super
favorite.
hyped when I saw that. I was like, that's sick.
It's one of my favorite pieces ever. I'm sure I've worn it on the podcast at least once.
So sick.
Yeah.
I hope you got sparked from the mending workshop to do that.
Oh, I absolutely did.
So
yeah.
sick.
Once I did the Adidas jacket, I was like, oh, I can definitely do more of this. And I have a love for fashion and clothing, and it kind of stems by taking old things and kind of making them my own.
Right.
And yeah, the hoodie was absolutely inspired by you.
Dude, that's so sick. That thing I think is like when I saw it, I was just like, that's so sick. And then like you did your couch. That's also insane.
The chair will be probably one of my prized possessions because this thing took me so long, and I didn't have a sewing machine. I just sat there.
I can't imagine. When I saw that you posted, you were like, "Oh, I did this by hand." I was like, "No way."
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's you get it. I mean, you understand the level and the detail required to pull something like this off.
Oh.
It's a purely passion project.
I mean, when you look at it, like you can't even tell that it was done by hand, which I think is like the point. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It looks, just as good as anything professional, if not better. It's,
thank you so much
cool.
for that. Thank you.
But yeah, anyway, so like we were doing those workshops, right?
Yes.
So yeah, Micah, Emily trying to get me to, like set up shop near them or by them or something. But I was like, man, maybe I should go back to Japan. Maybe I should,
Really? You're debating going back?
Oh, I did go back.
No way.
Yeah. So I went back probably like a couple months after those workshops.
Okay.
I did make like a custom shirt and jeans for Micah. And
I remember that. Yeah.
Shot the pictures.
It was a very early stage of my photography. I was very inexperienced at the time.
Dude, those photos are great though. Like they look super sick.
They turned out good.
Like perfect, exactly what I needed for those. So
yeah, those pants were insane.
That was a fun project. That was like a hand dyed pair of jeans.
No way.
Yeah.
I didn't know they were hand dyed.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that was cool. But yeah, so that was like that kind of sparked me though. I was like, oh, I could probably do this on my own.
Yeah, because you didn't have the shop yet.
Nothing. It was just kind of, so I made that out of my bedroom at my parents' house because I was living at home at the time, you know, in between working at the tailor shop and other stuff. So yeah, so moved back to Japan, right? I was working at a skate shop for a little bit while I was there. It was a great time, like one of the best memories of like Japan that I have.
I'm sure.
But I got an email from this theater in Minneapolis called the Guthrie. And they were like, "Hey, why don't you come back? Or why don't you come work for us? You know, see what's up." This is the time like COVID's kind of like starting, you know? So in Japan it was already a thing, and then in the States it was like not quite a thing yet, you know? I flew back to the States. The next day they closed all flights. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So I worked at that theater for like, I don't know, 2 weeks.
Or what were you doing there?
I was working in the costume department.
Okay.
Yeah. So doing like, they have a really insane costume department. You know, I can't remember how many people were working in that theater, and just the highest quality stuff you could imagine.
Oh,
it
wow.
was really cool.
Yeah.
It would have been great if I could have been there longer, but
sure.
it was, you know, COVID. So COVID, and they're like, well, you know.
Right. Had to cut back, I'm sure.
So I was kind of stuck in limbo. Ended up moving back home because I was in Minneapolis at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And then got a job at Hobby Lobby.
Hell yeah.
You know?
Shout out Hobby Lobby.
Yeah, for sure. Which really was like the kicker, because that sucked.
Yeah.
That was like the worst. You know, it was like
any retail.
Yeah. So like pandemic had kind of like ended. I mean, not ended, but you know, like
it was.
You could work again, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I got a job there, and I was like, man, this sucks. And then Emily's like, yo, we got this space. We're moving buildings. We got this space above. Why don't you come check it out? And then
you made the jump.
Yeah, basically, I was like, I had like no money, you know, and I was like, I'm doing it anyway. You know, I think I had like, I don't know, maybe like $1,000, which like covered the rent, you know.
Right,
and I was like, okay,
you got to make it happen.
Yeah. So, and now this is my second year, so I'll be going on my
it's
third.
It's been that long already. Wow, time flies.
Right.
I mean, congratulations. It's such a interesting path you've taken to get to this point.
It's been wild, yeah.
Have you enjoyed it? I mean,
oh, for sure, man. Yeah, it's just life, right? Like, just kind of wild, but yeah.
So, what kind of stuff do you do currently? Like, what's your day like?
So, I mean, it's kind of broken into, I don't know, 3 different things, right? So, I have alterations that I do basically daily. You know, that's just anyone from the street or whatever comes in and they say, hey, I need my suit altered. I need my jeans hemmed. I need a repair, something like that. And that kind of makes up the bulk of my work. And then occasionally I'll have things that are like more custom based projects, right? So that can be anywhere on like the lower end to be like a remake, you know, someone gives me a couple garments that maybe have some, you know, large damaged areas, and they're like, oh, you can cut this up and make whatever. So I'll do that. Or like a custom project from scratch where, you know, they're like, I want this type of garment, you know, can you help me find the fabric? Can you make the thing fit me perfectly?
Yeah.
That kind of thing. And then when I don't have any of those projects, I get to work on my own stuff.
Right. And which is my favorite by far.
Thanks.
Some of his, you can find his stuff in Locals Only, and then I think One of One you do a lot of work with as well.
Yeah, I've done some stuff for them. Also, starting from August, I'm gonna have some of my stuff in Tokyo.
Badass.
Yeah, so I'm really hyped. There's a shop opening up there.
Oh wow! Actually opening up in Tokyo.
Yeah.
Wow.
So not my shop, but it's just like there's a shop that's opening there.
That will hold some of your product.
Exactly, yeah. Okay. So like I'm gonna do 20 pieces for them, and so I'm really hyped.
That's so cool.
Yeah, it should be really cool. It's like a kind of like a dream come true type thing, you know?
Yeah.
So
for my listeners, how would you kind of describe your work?
It's a good question. You know, like, I mean, a lot of it, yeah, it's kind of tough because right now I feel personally like I'm in a place of limbo. like I'm still trying to figure out exactly what I'm trying to do,
Sure.
Um, but I would say like a lot of it has an a vibe of like sustainability. In the beginning, that was a big thing that was important to me. Was doing things that were, again, taking older garments. Not making things from new fabrics, stuff like that. Using vintage fabrics to make garments. I use a lot of natural dyes. So that was like a big key focus in the beginning.
Yeah, I didn't know you did so much dye work. What's that process like? I don't even think I've stumbled in. I do a lot of like research on like basically YouTube, just looking at different ways of mending and creating clothing. But dyeing is something I personally have never tried.
Yeah. It's a lot like a science, like you got to make sure that you have like your pH levels of your water a certain way, you have to have like a mordant and like all these other things to make sure that the fabric will adhere, or the dye will adhere to the fabric.
So it's not like washing out.
Yeah, right,
Yeah.
right. Which is still like it happens,
Hmm.
but like you try to minimize that as much as possible. But I should say the real like genius behind the dyeing stuff is my mom.
Really?
Yeah,
That's so cool.
so she's been doing that for years. Like
Interesting.
she's like she would never say it herself, but she's like a textile artist.
Really?
Yeah, and she's really good. Again, she probably wouldn't say so herself, but she's like just so she like cranks out stuff all the time. Just
So
like,
that's interesting. In your family, I mean, has she been doing that your entire
oh,
life?
for sure. As long as I can remember, she's been like weaving, knitting. Like she used to spin yarn.
Wow.
We used to have like little like Angora rabbits, and she would like comb their fur and make yarn from the fur.
No way.
Yeah. So like that was like as long as I can remember.
That's so cool.
Yeah, but so she'll do like dyeing projects, and then so what I'll do is I'll be like, hey mom, I'm thinking about doing this, or like I read about this. What do you know? And she'll be like, oh yeah, yeah. And then I'll like go over. She'll like help me set up the pots and everything like that, and then she'll be like, okay, you need to do like this and this.
Oh,
like,
that's insane.
yeah.
Just to have that such a knowledgeable person.
Oh, for sure.
To learn all of that from.
For sure.
Where did she learn all of that? Just
she like does like classes. She'll like go to classes whenever they have them. Like workshop things, like but for like dyeing or whatever.
Sure.
Especially now that things are all like online, she like does it all the time.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
So it's cool. Yeah.
So I love getting a sense of how artists work and create, but I also love getting a behind the scenes kind of look into your life. And I know skating is a huge part of what you do. Can you talk about your skating history?
Yeah, I mean, I love skateboarding. I think anyone who has ever thought like, oh, skateboarding might be cool, like go do it.
Yeah.
Like it's the best. I've been skateboarding since I was maybe 6 or 7. Yeah, I don't know, man. It's just like, do you skate? Like
I longboarded.
Okay.
I started longboarding
Yeah.
just very casually in like late middle school.
Okay.
And then by late high school, early college days, I started downhill longboarding,
No way.
which is like super intense stuff.
Gloves and all, like
I didn't to start, but eventually, yes, I got gloves and a helmet because I realized how absolutely reckless I was being.
yeah, for
But
sure.
I have some battle scars from
Oh.
sliding going like 35, 40 miles an
Yeah,
hour on
I
asphalt.
I bet. That's super crazy.
Super intense. I went to school at Stout, and Stout is Menominee is a pretty like hilly area, and there were some absolutely killer hills there that my friends and I would skate down, and I have the best memories. I eventually stopped just because I got to a point where I was so worried about falling, because I took some pretty large falls that
Couple
kind of
tumbles. Yeah.
that kind of make you start to second guess yourself, I guess
For
you could
sure.
say. So I lost a lot of confidence, and by the time it it was only like 2 years. By the time the 2 years had kind of ended, I was in a spot where it's like, well, I really can't afford to break any bones or to
For
injure
sure.
myself in really any way.
For sure.
So I should probably stop.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's a definite concern, right?
Yeah.
Especially like, I mean, insurance isn't cheap, you know?
Oh, definitely not.
But yeah, I mean, I definitely recommend to anybody skateboarding or like who has thought about it, like go do it. It's great. I had stopped for a long time.
Yeah.
So when I was in fashion school, I put all my energy into that. So like everything else was like secondary. So I didn't step on a skateboard for probably about, I don't know, 4 or 5 years,
Wow. Yeah.
and then one day when I moved back home, it was sitting in the garage and I was like looking at it, and I was like, from then it was like a spark again.
Yeah. Yeah. My longboard's sitting in my garage right now, man.
You gotta go jump on it. It's
I
it's
should.
just it's such a good feeling,
Yeah.
just like being able to ride.
It's kind of hard to describe
Yeah.
in a lot of ways
Yeah.
because it's different for everybody, but there is such a culture behind it too. I mean, you talk about fashion, like
Yep.
streetwear was kind of born from skaters.
For sure. I mean, I think just personally in my life, skateboarding has taught me everything. Like not to give up, to keep, you know what I mean? Like,
Oh yeah, ton of life
oh,
lessons.
for sure. And then just like the freedom of being able to like go where you want to go, like obviously the culture aspect of it, the style aspect. There's just everything. So
Yeah.
yeah.
This is kind of bouncing back and forth. I love getting to talk to you. You're so interesting. What is kind of your favorite? I don't know what the right word is, but like genre is the word that's coming to mind. I know that's not right. Of like fashion. Like, because I mean, there's so many different sort of categories. And for me, like the anti-fashion has always been like a huge inspiration
Oh,
for
for
me.
sure.
And
Yeah.
like seeing what Kanye did with all of the people that came before Kanye and inspired him to start creating his clothing.
Yeah,
Like,
for
do you
sure.
have any of those people in your life?
So actually, you like say anti-fashion. There's a
Yeah.
really good documentary on YouTube. I think it's called like '90s anti-fashion or
I
something.
think I've watched
It's
it.
a really good one. So yeah, I mean, in the beginning, I was really into like minimalist stuff, like Jill Sanders or Sonder. I don't know how you say it. I'm trying to think of who else I was into in the beginning. But again, once I found like calm, it changed just the course of everything in terms of what I was into. Because growing up, like I was really into like the punk culture. Like I played in a lot of like emo bands and
Yeah,
like
hell
that
yeah.
kind of thing. So like I think calm has like a really good marriage of like a punk attitude within the fashion realm.
Yeah, it's like a more mature, yeah, punk vibe.
Yeah, and then there's like also kind of like an intellectual, like avant-garde thing in there, which blew my mind that like clothes could mean something other than just something that you wear.
Right.
These days, like I'm not really into fashion as much, and I think a lot of the times when I design or make clothes, it's like there's always something else in mind, like who's gonna wear it, why am I doing this, what's the purpose of placing this here or something like that. But yeah, definitely like there's this brand called Undercover, super big influence on me.
I'll have to look that up.
He's one of, so it's Undercover, Jun Takahashi, that's the designer. And every collection, every time I see something, I'm like,
Mind blown.
yeah, it's like more like I was thinking about that too, and that's
Okay.
like really cool. Yeah, also like these days it's like a lot of my friends and my classmates that have graduated with me or was a year above me, like they have their own brands, they're doing their own thing, and maybe like stylistically we're different, but like just the fact that they're doing it and like seeing the stuff that they come up with is super inspiring.
Yeah.
So
Do you have kind of like a end goal, that something you're working towards? Like, do you want to have your own brand? Are you looking to just continue to make like one-off pieces, or?
yeah, so I mean, I have a few different things. You know, it's like you're always thinking about like different paths that you could potentially go, right? Um, in you know, right now, one of the main things I'm kind of thinking about is like I want to, and again, this is like that community thing, you know. So like, you know, because like Micah and Emily, you know, they kind of really like convinced me, or I guess maybe like showed me how important the community is, right?
Mm.
And so like I think, you know, going forward, I'd like to kind of expand my, you know, I'd consider my shop a brand in its own way, you
Oh,
know.
absolutely.
But like expand that to have maybe more people working in a similar way that I do, you know. So like I like the idea, you know, there's not a lot of places that are doing like a shop, you know, that has an alterations tailor in it. They, you know, they manufacture their own clothes and sell it all in the same space, you know.
Oh, especially locally. I mean,
Especially locally, but even, you know, you go out in the world, it's kind of few and far between. And I think that's something that I would like, is like a manufacturing in the States, you know, like have my own place where I'm manufacturing.
so cool. Yeah.
I think another thing is like, you know, working in the jobs that I had where you don't really have any control over what you're doing. It really sucks, especially as a creator or creative, I guess.
Artist. I mean,
Artist or
you're
whatever,
truly
you
an
know, whatever
artist.
you want to call it. But so, you know, like creating an environment where like, yes, you're producing clothes, and maybe, you know, you have to, but also having the people who are making it have the options of like making things that they want to do, or you know, make the things that they want to make, and give other creative sewers a space that they can do that.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah. Kind of just fostering whatever talents you can bring in.
For sure. You know, and then also having like because like right now my price point can, for especially for like the things that I make, you know, like if I make a single pair of jeans, it's going to be more expensive than like a Uniqlo pair of jeans, right? But I'd like to have a little bit more of an accessible price point, you know.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah.
Accessibility is huge, but it's a hard balance, because obviously you put a lot of time and effort into your work, and it's like, at what point, you know, do you sacrifice, you know, having a lot of people wear your stuff versus, you know, trying to make a living doing it.
Right.
I mean, do you struggle with that?
Yeah, yes and no. Like right now, again, everything's kind of like one off. You know, I did do like a couple of things of merch, right? Like I did hoodies and tees. But you know, yeah, I don't know. I would say like right now it's more like I kind of just make what I want to make, you know. But I kind of want to get past that point.
Yeah.
Where I can, you know, I don't know. Yeah.
Do you think you'll be in the area for a longer time, or are you like looking to venture out somewhere else?
I think right now the purpose of being here is to be here, you know? So like before I opened up my shop here, I kind of could have done it anywhere, you know, but now that I'm here, I think it's important to do it here. So,
Love that. Yeah.
you know, like I don't want to like do this, get to a point and then just peace out, you know?
Sure.
So like I think I want to do something, create something that's like almost self-sufficient in a way, you know, like just a machine that, you know, kind of runs itself, and then maybe I can
move on to something
else.
else.
But like, you know, something like solid here, you know.
Yeah, no, I have very similar feelings to what I'm trying to accomplish here. And it's I think very similar in that way, where it's like, I know for a fact I want to leave a mark here. I just don't know exactly what that is yet, or how to even accomplish that.
Right.
But yeah, there's just a feeling you have sometimes.
For sure. And I think that's like part of it is like you kind of have a feeling of of where you're trying to go, kind of, right? It's like you don't really know, but you kind of
do.
yeah, and you're like you make moves along the way, right? So if you're like you're doing your you were doing photography, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And then you're doing like your podcast, and it's all kind of like it is one thing, and maybe someone looking from the outside is like, oh, you're doing this and then you're doing that, or you're doing this, but it's all
Oh,
like
it's all connected.
exactly,
Yeah, yeah.
So
And a huge part about, growing and building something like that is just working on your craft too.
Right.
Like, I'm sure you spend as many hours as I do just studying and researching and just producing stuff just to work on yourself.
for sure,
Yeah.
nonstop, right?
What have some of your favorite pieces been?
Oh man,
You gotta have some like babies that you're like super proud of.
yeah. So I mean, my graduate collection from school is one that I'm like, in terms of like the making and the time and the design and everything, I'm really proud of those garments. I kept two, and the rest I gave away to like friends and homies and stuff.
Wow.
But yeah, the two I kept two because they were like, I'm not.
Yeah, these are
getting
mine.
yeah, for sure,
Yeah.
for sure. And then there's been like a few others. Like I did this trouser and jacket for my buddy Tom. I also did a pair of jeans. Those were really cool. Yeah, in all of them in their own way, when I look back, I learned something, and so like I think that's maybe more important, is like looking back and being like, oh yeah, I learned how to do this, or this got better because of that.
Sure.
I would say there's like one favorite garment that I have that I made, which is like this flannel t-shirt thing that I like. It was like a vintage flannel.
Is it on your Instagram?
It is like I post most of the garments that I, like I don't post my alterations really and stuff like that.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
like most of the like pieces.
Custom work.
Yeah, you might have to scroll back a little bit, but
Okay. Describe it for us. So
it's like a red and black, like flannel on the bottom and then a t-shirt on the top. It's got like the t-shirt sleeves and then the flannel sleeves coming out of it.
Got it.
It was cool because it was like I just kind of started cutting and then it just happened.
Yeah, it was a product of not really having a plan, but
yeah,
just yeah, that's interesting.
and like visually it's something that like appeals to me in like a, I don't know, like a nostalgic,
Sure. Nostalgia is a powerful thing.
for sure.
I mean, if you had to take a crack at it, how many garments have you made in your life? This is just a off the wall question.
I don't know. I mean,
like, are we talking thousands?
nah. Like, I mean, I'd probably say like, over the hundreds.
Over the hundreds.
Yeah. Like making a garment's like a long process.
Oh God, yeah. I can only imagine. I've never fully start to finish like created my own thing. I mean, this chair is probably the closest I'll ever get.
Yeah.
But even that was just like an upholstery job. I didn't make the frame. I didn't make the padding.
Right.
To make something from start to finish, from pattern to cutting to
even
sewing.
like the design, you do like mock-ups.
Right.
You do, in most of those jobs in a traditional like brand are done by different people, right? It's like you have a designer, you have a pattern cutter, and then you have a factory,
right?
And so
it's not one vision necessarily.
Yeah, and it's like, so it takes, I don't know, like, yeah, again, it takes tons of hours to do a garment. Like a tailored jacket, like a true bespoke jacket is, I think it's like over 160 hours of just hand sewing. That doesn't include cutting the pattern, doesn't include doing the fittings. Just those are just the hand stitches.
Yeah. You obviously have to have a lot of love for what you're doing to be able to devote that much.
For
I mean, they talk about like it takes like 10,000 hours to master a craft.
Yeah.
How many hours are you in?
I mean, yeah, you couldn't even count, right?
Like, with the 80-hour work weeks,
Yeah,
you're
for
probably
sure.
close to like you're pushing 9,000.
But you know, like the thing too is like I feel like even if you hit 10,000 hours, like
Yeah.
once you hit that point, like don't you think you'd be like onto the you're like
The next thing.
you know what I mean? And you're trying to like
I think
always,
about that all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are so many different I guess hobbies you could call them that I've picked up just in the realm of what I'm doing now that I haven't nearly mastered, but I've spent a lot of time on.
For sure.
And it's like, I don't think I'll ever hit 10,000 hours on anything, you know? That's a hard thing.
It's a lot of hours for sure. So you're asking me about like making how many garments I made. I just remembered like there's a kid that I went to school with.
Yeah.
He quit in our first year, but he was like so beyond any of us. Before he entered our school, he had went to like a high school that was specially for making clothes.
Wow.
You know?
Yeah.
Which is crazy to think. I guess it's like an art high school or something. But yeah, it was like special.
But high school, I mean, to already know in high school that you want to go down that line.
For sure.
That's insane.
For sure. But before he entered like our trade school, he made like 100 tailored jackets.
Wow.
And you could tell. Like, you know what I mean? Like when you saw his work, you're like, that dude's insane. Like his stuff's so good, you know, But
it took 100 jackets to get
for
there.
Sure. And probably like how many more hours of just like
yeah.
learning how to sew, you know, I don't know.
Do the math.
Crazy.
If it takes 100 hours plus to make one of those,
yeah.
I mean, he's already there.
Yeah, for sure.
That's crazy.
Crazy. Yeah. That dude was really good, but
I'm sure there are a ton of people you've been able just to observe their craft like that. I mean, talk about a cool experience going over to Tokyo and watching people who are masters at what they do.
For sure. I mean, it's like when you're put in an environment where everyone's really good. Like the first time I ever threaded a needle, it took me like 5 hours, you know?
Yeah.
But like everyone else was so good that I had to catch up.
Sure.
You know? And like, I mean, yeah, just being in an environment where like everyone is so good, you know?
Well, it's kind of like sink or swim at that point too. You're like, okay, if I want to do this, like, let's go.
For sure. And even now, like, you know, like I bet tons of those dudes are just doing the most insane things.
Yeah.
You know, where if I like looked at their work and compared to mine, I'd be like, oh man,
I gotta catch up.
Yeah, for sure.
But those are the environments where you truly, I think, learn the most. I mean,
sure.
When that pressure is on and you're in the right environment where you have no other option but to wholeheartedly focus on something like that.
For sure. It's kind of like a blessing.
Yeah.
You know, to like be able to be in an environment where everybody's pushing you.
Do you want to go back and, you know, do that again? I mean, or are you like, I've had enough. I can do this now on my own.
I sometimes wonder, you know, like it's like at a certain point you're like, okay, like, do I keep trying to push myself in the direction that I feel that I need to go, right? Or, you know, do you put yourself in an environment where maybe you're not focusing on like your own art, but you're like focusing on like the craft of it, you know? Or in an environment where people are going to push you to, you know, bring your level up in a different way, you know?
Interesting.
It's a tough.
I mean, you're undeniably doing that right now with the people you're surrounding yourself with.
That's also very true. Yeah. And they've pushed me in different ways, you know, like outside of making clothes, you know, of course it like bleeds into making clothes, but like
you're also friends.
And they've definitely pushed me in different ways of like, you know, like my drawing abilities or, you know, just like being a better, more conscientious person, or you know what I mean? Like,
that's the perfect segue, because I want to talk about kind of your history with drawing too, because you just gave me these stickers casually, and I knew you drew because I've seen like you post your notebooks and your sketches and that kind of stuff. But has that been, you know, something you've carried on throughout your entire process?
Yeah. I would say too, like, I think it's, you know, I think everybody should have a notebook, and everyone should, like either they're, if they use it for a diary or a sketchbook or, all of those, poems, whatever. Like if you look through my sketchbooks, it's not just drawings. It's like everything.
It's like a mind dump. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I think everyone should have one. It's
Yeah, that's something I don't do, but now that you mention it, I'm like, that might be really helpful.
it's insanely helpful. It's the best kind of like, I don't know. It's just it's almost like a therapy in itself.
Sure.
But yeah, what we're talking about the drawing.
Yeah, drawing. I mean, like I have a bit of a drawing background. I actually went to Stahv for a BFA in game design.
Oh, no way.
So I took a ton of art classes my first year. Just, like charcoal drawing and like all these super cool classes just solely based around drawing and art.
Dude, that's so sick.
It's really cool, but I don't really do it much anymore. I really should, but
Yeah.
that it seems to be like something you've consistently done.
I would say like out of all the things I mean, obviously, the things I learned in school I use every day for work, but I would say the one thing, if I could only have one thing, it would be like the sketchbook thing.
That's so cool.
Because it's really great. I love it. Yeah.
And you say you like literally anything that comes to mind, not just a project or not just a piece of work. I mean, it seems like you practice that every day. So
yeah, so like it's like anything, when you're doing it, and when you're not, you're really not.
Yeah.
But so when I really get into it, it's like a daily thing. It's not even a conscious thing. Like I have to do it. It's just, it comes out and it changes your work like it drastically, so like I can look back at my work and be like, oh yeah, that came from a sketchbook, or like, like this was a stream of consciousness that influenced this, whereas like when you're not doing that, you're kind of just like doing, like,
well, I'm sure you're a very visual person, I'm sure.
For sure, yeah.
And for some people, I guess a similar thing would be carrying out a very like tight agenda or a schedule of their life. I mean, as somebody who's visual, like it's probably a very good way to keep yourself focused and like grounded and to really kind of visualize what you want to do or where you want to go.
For sure. I also keep a very tight like schedule agenda too.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Because like I never did before.
Yeah.
But like as like having my own business kind of like has forced me to become way more organized. You know? And so like I'll have in a good month, I'll have like my 2 weeks scheduled out, like I know what I'm doing for the next 2 weeks. In a really good month, I'll know what I'm doing the whole month.
Wow. Yeah. I need to get to that point. I know I hit you up super last minute, probably like 2 days ago. I'm like, hey, you want to hop on the podcast?
Dude,
like,
I was so hyped. I got to tell you, because I was talking to my fiance like maybe a week and a half ago, and I was like, man, I really want to go on this podcast.
No way.
Yeah. And like literally, you hit me up, and I was like, that's crazy.
Oh, I've been wanting to get you on for a while now. I've been following you for so long, and you're obviously just so knowledgeable and so passionate about what you do. So I was like, I really need to just sit down and talk to him, and because it's been a while since I've seen you.
Yeah, I mean, pre-pandemic maybe.
Yeah,
like
it was.
Time.
Yeah, definitely pre-pandemic, and I was already so fascinated by what you did, and yeah, it obviously inspired me to do a lot of different things.
It's really cool because I mean, like I know you're doing like the photography thing, like you're doing all sorts of stuff. It's really cool, like to kind of see. Man. Yeah, it's super sick.
Yeah, no, I've really been enjoying creating again because I went through kind of a little rough patch where I really didn't want to create anything. I don't know, as artists you go through these, it's kind of like writer's block, I guess.
Yeah.
Where you get to in moods where it's like nothing comes to you, or I don't know, you just feel a different type of way about your work. I mean,
For
do you
sure.
ever find yourself
All the
there?
time.
Yeah.
All the time. Um, Again, the notebook thing is a great thing to have to fall back on,
Sure.
especially when you're feeling those types of ways, because you can look back from like months ago and be like, oh, there was an idea that I never did, and I
Yeah, yeah,
can
yeah.
do that. You know, so
I'm
that's
definitely gonna take that from you.
for sure. I can't recommend anything more.
Yeah.
But yeah, even now, like, you know, like I feel like there's times where I'm like, man, I really don't want to work.
Mm.
You know, like creatively, like nothing really gets me stoked. You know, and you can still do the thing. Like
Right. Oh
you're
yeah.
still doing the
And
thing,
you're still good at
but
it.
it's just like there's a grind aspect to it. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
so yeah, I don't know.
Do you find surrounding yourself with other creatives is super helpful?
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest thing I've been able to take away from being, because I was not creating stuff for like a year, 2 years. It was a really long time. The
When was
longest.
this?
It was kind of like it was honestly probably very close to when I first met you.
Okay.
I was in between jobs and just very burnt out on life in
Yeah.
general.
Yeah.
And it's taken a long time just to get that creative juice back. It's crazy.
Talk about it. Like it's, you know, if you want to talk about like going through these slumps, you know, like, you know, I was telling you I was working 80 hours a week, you know, like that time was a crazy slump. And it took me probably, I don't know, 4 years to feel like myself again,
Yeah,
you know?
dude, seriously.
Yeah.
We got to normalize that kind of
For
stuff.
sure. I
Because
feel like people don't talk about it.
oh, absolutely. I think there are a lot of people out there who are probably going through similar stuff, and it's like you never know what it's going to take to get back out of that slump
For
either.
sure.
It's super scary.
Yeah.
It's like, did I lose that spark? Like,
For
should I
sure.
move on to something else?
For
But
sure.
the biggest thing for me is just patience, you know.
Yeah.
Eventually it'll come back.
Yeah, for sure. For me, I'm lucky enough that I'm so like single focus, you know, like that I'm just like close. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like that
yeah.
I'm like, I got to do that. I got to do like that. Even the times where I wasn't feeling great, I was still doing the thing.
Yeah. Yep.
But yeah, I definitely think people don't talk about that enough.
Not at all. It's also been because I talked to a ton of different people, and I think literally every single person I've talked to has at some point gone through something similar.
For sure.
And it's like just to know that, and to know like great people go through those types of things, and I mean it really helps just knowing that it's a normal thing and you'll eventually get out of that
Yeah.
that kind of rut.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's life is a strange thing.
Dude, it's a wild ride for sure.
It truly
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
I want to thank you again for coming out and talking to me. It has been such a pleasure to kind of dive into your world and your history and get some background there. And you better be aware that once I make my first million, I'm solely going to be rocking your clothes.
Dude, thank you so much for having me on this thing. Like, this is great. I'm so
I'm
hyped to
definitely
be here.
having you back on
Dude,
it.
I would love to. I would love to. Yeah.
Yeah.
This is great. Yeah.
So for people, pitch yourself. Come on, give. Where can people find you? Where's the store at?
Yeah. So my shop is 101 South Broadway in De Pere. So on the first floor, it's got Northern Tide Tattoo. There's Sam and Micah, both really great tattooers.
Insane. Their work
So
is
good.
very, very good.
And they're both very great dudes, like very great hearts. Next door, you got Emily, who's got Locals Only.
She was one of the first like vintage resellers that got me into that sort of world, and she's phenomenal.
She is so cool. Like I feel like she's someone who connects everybody. She's so good at like connecting people and like being like, oh, you should talk to this person, or like she's just super cool and her shop's great.
Locals only.
Locals only. You'll always find some hidden gems.
Absolutely.
And then you got my shop on the second floor, and that's where I just kind of like cut up clothes and fabric, and then see what happens. It's kind of just.
Should people, if they want some of your work or want some work done, should they hit you up on Instagram or your website, or what works best?
Yes. So I do have a website in my Instagram. I'd say, people do email me. I'm not the best at checking my emails. I check my emails every once in a while, but like if you send me a DM, I'm probably likely to get back to you pretty quick. I don't have my like notifications turned on my phone, so like it's just whenever I check Instagram,
Perfect.
And I'll see if someone messaged me. Same thing with like, actually you should check out like, so I have 3 garments at One of One Gallery.
Yes, yeah.
They're also super great dudes.
Shout out. They were on After Hours podcast, or one of the brothers was on the After Hours podcast recently. So
sick.
Yeah.
Dude, they're great dudes.
Cool
super
guy.
Cool guys. Yeah. So I got like 3 garments that I did with them. I don't know if I have a couple pieces at Locals Only. Right now, I'm like most of my like own made things are pretty low in stock.
Got it.
But I have some things, but yeah, send me if you got like alterations, you want something custom, hit me up on Instagram, a.stone_Taylor.
There it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Some of the best work in the area, hands down.
I really appreciate it. I
Nobody
try very
competes.
hard. There's great people everywhere, but I do try very hard.
He's legit, super legit. But again, thank you so much for coming out.
Thank you.
It's been an absolute pleasure.
Awesome, man.
Yeah.
It's great.
Run it. It's a cool thing. It's a really cool thing.